ब्रह्मचर्य व्रती दंडी सर्ववेदांत पंडित श्रीमद्विवेक योगी मां प्रचोदयतु सर्वदा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं. Today is Shankara Jayanti, so we thought today we shall enrich ourselves by thinking of that wonderful personality of Shankara. But we are not going to discuss here the details of Shankara's life, because combining both his life and his message, that will be too long an exercise. So I am going to present here one of my meditations on Shankara, which I had years back. In that, Shankara is the consolidated, or we can say condensed Sanatana Dharma, embodied Sanatana Dharma. About Swami Vivekananda, people used to say he is condensed India. About Shankaracharya, we can say he was condensed Sanatana Dharma. A young Brahmin boy from Kerala, that is of special interest to us. By the time he came to 32 years of his wonderful, glorious life, could bring about so much of a revolution in the thinking which was prevalent in the society at that time of our Sanatana Dharma. So we shall see who was Shankara, who is Shankara, and who Shankara will be. But Shankara here is more or less a principle rather than an individual. Individual life we can get from anywhere. Any book will tell you he was born in Kaladi. Shivaguru and Aryamba, they went to Vadakunathan temple and prayed, and he is Shankara's avatar. That is how the story goes. But we shall leave that. We shall look at him from a modern scientific view about the Shankara's contributions. So when we look at him like that as a consolidated principle, then the question is, was Shankara ever born? When was he born? Where was he born? Who were his parents? All that pale into insignificance. They are not very important. We are going to look at the multifaceted effulgence that came out of that young Shankara. Deep as the ocean, lofty as Himalayas, expansive as the sky, ancient yet young, profound in wisdom, but silent beyond this phenomenal world, yet one with it. Beyond the phenomenal world, and yet one with it. Not even thousand-tongued Shesha can describe the glory that was Shankara. Bhagavad Gita tells us, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. When we look at it at that point, from that point of view, we see that Sanatana Dharma needed some new touch to regenerate itself. Because any religion or culture, after use and misuse, tends to lose its glory, its practical need. So many things will happen, anything which is used and abused. So Hindu Dharma was going through that sort of a stage, and so we can say the age was ripe for someone to be born. A Yuga Avatara. It was time for a Yuga Avatara to take place. The events that marked Shankara's short life can be summarized, but who can comment on that wonderful commentary that he was of truth, the ultimate truth, of self-existent knowledge and life eternal? Who can comment about that? Who amongst us is qualified to comment on that aspect of his life? So we are going to peep into that aspect of Shankara. For 32 years, this star of unusual effulgence lit up our sky before it disappeared into the folds of time. Swami Vivekananda also was just less than 40 when he passed away. Shankara was just 32 years. Even in that short span of his life, people used to speak of him. In knowledge of Vedas, he was Brahma himself. Of its auxiliaries like Gargya, of sacred narratives like Brihaspati, of the doctrines of rituals like Gemini, and of philosophy like Badarayana. There was no aspect of Hindu Dharma which was left untouched by this great intellect. But the best of his talents he devoted to the thorough understanding of the non-dualistic principles contained in the Upanishads. That is, we know that all the 10 major Upanishads, he has written the commentary, and that is what we are now, when we take up Upanishad studies, we are using these 10 Upanishads which Shankara has commented, and of course Bhagavad Gita, so many things. This world of fleeting sensual pleasures could not hold him. A small child, he was brought up, father died very early, and only the widowed mother was there. And in a traditional Orthodox Brahmin family in Kaladi, he was growing up. So, naturally, Brahmacharya, Gahrasya, it has to go like that, a normal life. But, like the renowned Nachiketa, he too left the beaten track of the worldly enjoyments and took to the lonely path of self-realization, renunciation and contemplation, so that he could take his life to the citadel of truth. It is to Shankara's everlasting glory that even at that young age, following the Upanishadic teachings and techniques of intricate analysis, reasoning, negation and self-annihilation, he could realize the truth within him and attain oneness with him. Tadatmya with the truth, became one with the truth, and that is what gave such a brilliance to Shankara's short life. A little child though he was, he could no longer enjoy the comforts of the worldly home, and adopting the extremely austere life of a renunciate, he lived in constant communion with his transcendental self. No wonder that this child monk of unsurpassed grace and wisdom brought a new dignity to the order of sannyasis. Later, if you read through the life, you will find he created the 4 mathas and gave the 4 sannyasi traditions, all that he did during his short life. Through his tireless wanderings and profound writings and captivating discourses on the oneness of truth, he was not talking about bhakti, temple or anything like that at this stage. He had only one topic, and that is the oneness of truth. He achieved the miracle of uniting the country into one whole. Because at that time there were so many sub religious orders, or we can say traditions, quarreling with each other. And there was no union of this Sanatana Dharma, a united, harmonious whole. That was not there. So into that he brought his full realization of this oneness of truth, and he united them all into one whole, that they are all part of the, later we see, Ekam Satvipra Bahuda Vadanti, etc. We have come to hear about it. Possibly the first attempt at national or religious integration that India had ever achieved. The depth of understanding and the rare brilliance of erudition with which Shankara examined and studied the various doctrines and philosophies by itself became an act of polishing, purifying, and when commented by this embodiment of truth, who was none other than the incomparable Dakshinamurti, they revealed new meaning and significance. All our great texts, when touched by him, contemplated by him, and commented upon by him, they all assumed a new brilliance. Truth contained in texts expressed through, how is the Sanatana Dharma truth? Truth contained in the texts, idolized in the temples, expressed through rituals, practiced by priests, propagated by teachers, lived in daily life by common people. All of them acquired a new ethereal glow at his divine touch. Because there was no part of human life he left untouched. So that is why we should all read Shankara's life, how he touched, starting from the common man, that incident in Benares where the untouchable tries to teach him the lesson. Shiva himself comes before him. Wonderful are the incidents in his life, but as I said, we shall go into the science of Shankara. The words of transcendental wisdom that emanated from this knower of Brahman, the most powerful vibrations of Advaita, ruthlessly demolished the parasitic growth of perversions and superstitions on the ancient tree of Sanatana Dharma, into which now flowed the life-giving sap, again bringing it into blossom. Earlier in one of our talks, talking about Swami Vivekananda, I said this Bharat was a Shila and he brought it back into the old Shilpa. It was like that. The Sanatana Dharma had so much of overgrowth, superstitions, etc. He cleaned up the whole thing with this torch of truth. To everywhere he shone the light of Advaita Chinta, or the Advaita knowledge, and everything regained its original splendor. Whether it is a ritual or a temple or an ideal, there is hardly any temple. All the major temples of India has been sanctified by his presence. Shankara did not stop with intellectual exercises alone. He entered the temples, rectified the mistakes in their rituals and ceremonies, transforming them again into centers of power and faith. We have seen this happening in recent history when Sri Ramakrishna entered into the Dakshineshwara temple and worshipped Kali Mother. What happened? The same thing happened. It was brought to life. It again became a center of power and faith. The idols therein literally came to life at his call. when in absolute identification with the eternal, all-pervading self, he breathed into them the essence of his own eternal life. The glories he sang of them are marvels of transcendental poetical beauty. Just his Saundarya Lahari alone is enough. Make us wonder, what is poetry? Today we see a small kavita from a small kavi and we glorify it. We should read Saundarya Lahari. We cannot imagine the descriptions, the beauty of Saundarya Lahari. His name suits it, Saundarya Lahari. Now a question is there, the torch of Advaita. So what is Advaita? We must know a little bit. What are the main aspects of Advaita? So we go on hearing Advaita philosophy, etc. We see how Shankara has codified this Advaita in simple terms. What is Advaita? What makes it so inspiring to the rational intellectual and awe-inspiring to the layman? For a scientist, it is high, wonderful Advaita. But for a common man, if you tell, the whole universe is one, he will start wondering, what is it? It's so awful, he cannot understand it. Advaita can be understood in an oversimplified way by understanding three of its major concepts. One, the ultimate reality is one only, the Nirguna Brahma, the indescribable yet realizable by the human mind in this very life. That is the fundamental point in Advaita. It is the one and only truth, omnipotent, omnipresent, like we say, Ishavashyamidam sarvam. The whole universe is pervaded by this one truth alone. Second point, out of this Brahman, just like the cobwebs coming out of the spider, the whole Jagat has been brought out and spread out like that, and it goes back into it like the web from a spider has come out of this phenomenal world of pluralities in it, but not of it. This world is taken as the reality by the ignorant due to the play of Maya, the deluding power of the intellect and creative misinterpretation. Maya is these days referred to as creative misinterpretation. We are misinterpreting the world. For a layman, the world he lives is indeed real. But as he moves away from the world of senses through rational thinking and contemplation, the phenomenal world appears less and less real till a stage comes when it appeared totally unreal. From such a height of realization must have come Shankara's very famous utterance, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The third concept is that of avidya or ignorance. This ignorance is, however, different from the ordinarily understood lack of knowledge of things. It is an ignorance conditioned by Maya, which prevents rather than recognizing his true nature or reality within him and makes him behave as a non-entity suffering the pangs of day-to-day life. Because we do not know this oneness of the truth, we are enchanted by the world outside brought into us by our indriyas, and we get lost in it. We are not able to make head and tail of this life. In Shankara's words, as clay is the efficient cause of the pot, so is ignorance declared by Vedanta as the efficient cause of the universe. When the ignorance is destroyed, where is then the universe? When the ultimate reality is realized, the universe vanishes. That is his contention. When you realize the truth and then look back into the world, that is how probably our great rishis, Ishavasyavidam, when they look back at it, Swamiji also used to say, in simpler words, that this world is a wonderful place. Because we do not know the truth, We find so much of confusion in this world. The world is really a most marvelous, beautiful place, he used to say. The life as is known and lived by us today is a combined effect of Maya and Avidya. So long as we remain in their grip, like the dreamer in a dream, we experience the joys and miseries of the dream. To rescue the dreamer from his dream experiences, the only way is to stop the dream, that is, wake him up. That is what our Upanishads want us to do. Uttishtada jagrada prapya varan nibodhata. Wake up, wake up. Swamiji's wake up call, jagrada, jagrada. Uttishtada jagrada. Arise, awake. Similarly, to end the miseries of this life and gain bliss, avidya must end. Man must wake up. It is true to his true reality within. The world of enjoyments and miseries cease to have any reality for the person who establishes his identity with the Brahman. Knower of Brahman becomes Brahman itself. That is Shankara's contention. Not only Shankara's, all our great rishis have said like that. The bold and daring rational intellect finds in Advaita all the strength and confidence it is looking for. For weak people, Advaita is something threatening. But a bold, scientific-minded person who wants to inquire into the truth, he finds in Advaita whatever he is looking for. A new dynamism comes to him as he identifies himself with his Supreme Self. He understands himself to be the sole authority of his actions, good and bad, with no God interfering in his life. This makes him forward-looking and adds a new significance to his life. Joyously, he starts on his spiritual journey to reach the ultimate goal. There was no cult or creed in India which could stand up to the challenges of this perfect thinking and analytical reasoning. All erroneous and false practices and pretentious teachings crumbled before the mighty wave of Shankara's Advaitic thought. He became Sarvajna, the repository of the highest and the most profound knowledge, reasoning, analysis, and realization. There was nobody to beat him in the whole country. He traveled up and down and was engaged in dialogues, debates, but nobody could surpass him. Like the mighty Himalayas and the ever-gurgling Ganges, Shankara also became the personified quintessence of the best which India had to offer to the world. So that was Shankara. So we have seen Shankara, how he has developed and has come up to the pinnacle of this glory. And that was Shankara. And now Shankara is gone, but his teachings remain with us. Science has developed so much. And so now, at the present moment, for people like ordinary people like us who have a little bit of, we claim to have a scientific traditions, etc. Now, what is Shankara? All that Shankara has taught, what relevance it is today? Today, Shankara is the favorite of Western scientists and intellectuals. What is so fascinating to modern thinkers, logicians, and scientists is that his Advaita provides a system totally devoid of internal contradictions. To have been the master of such a clear, precise, and perfect system, and that too at such an young age, is what makes Shankara supremely dear and acceptable to one and all. So present-day scientists will find in Shankara, we will see more. As material science moves nearer towards the ultimate truth, thanks to the most wonderful discoveries made in this century by outstanding men of science, the importance of human mind and consciousness in the scheme of things is also becoming clearer. Advaita, with its daring pronouncement, Tattvamasi, stands today as the only logical conclusion for all the varied scientific inquiries because only it can provide, here I am quoting Arthur Heisenberg, a great physician. He says, what does he say? A complete philosophical and conceptual framework within which the findings of advanced modern physical science can be placed without stress or tear. Any of the modern discoveries, if you fit it into Advaita, it fits there, like no contradictions. So long as there is a gap in the scientific understanding and matter of energy were thought to be separate entities, Advaita's monism was not acceptable to the Western scientists. The tables are turned now. Recent discoveries in the field of science are repeatedly proving that matter and energy are the obverse and reverse of the same something. What is that something? What could that something be other than the divine consciousness of which man is a rightful heir? This omniscient, omnipotent, universal truth which India had proclaimed thousands of years ago is at last entering into the understanding of the best scientific brains in the West. This all-pervading, unwringingly applicable and realizable monastic truth is what Shankara started searching for as a boy of 8, escaping from the jaws of the crocodile of illusions, and having realized it, spared no time to share it with the entire world, like the great rishis of the old. Srinantu Vishwe, he wanted to broadcast this knowledge. That is how he traveled up and down in this country. Today, baffled with the results of their far-reaching theoretical and experimental analysis, when scientists are groping in darkness in blind alleys, it is Shankara with his light of Advaita who is lighting their paths. As science is approaching nearer and nearer to truth, the material in it is undergoing dissolution and the spirit is taking over. The erstwhile mechanical and material models are losing their relevance, and the need to discover new symbols is increasingly felt. As a material scientific search finally establishes its contact with the ultimate self-existent truth, Brahman of Vedantin, or whatever name it may be called, and merges with it, there is bound to be an emergence of a new light of understanding. Divisurya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yugapadutthita, as though 1,000 suns have together lit up the sky. That would be when India will again regain her supremacy in the world thought. Advaita would have proved its worth as a system of thought par excellence. So that is Shankara now, the current Shankara. So what was Shankara is Shankara's experimentation with himself. What he brought out is what the present science is catching up. And now, what the future will be. Wherever and whenever the human mind cuts asunder its shackles of ignorance and in a spirit of adventure soars high into realms unknown, through perfect analytical and rational contemplation to reach for truth, the ultimate truth, there will be manifestation of the spirit of Shankara. Shankara's spirit will live with us forever now. Glory to the land which gave birth to Shankara. Glory to the culture that fashioned his genius. Glory to the eternal immortal spirit that manifested as Shankara. Jaya Jaya Shankara. Let us pray this humble homage to him and fill our mind with Shankara and his wonderful contribution, Advaita, by which we can rectify our lives, bring peace and harmony into the world. Let this, with pranams at his feet, Shankaram, Loka Shankaram. The knowledge of Advaita can bring peace to the world. Maybe India is surging ahead And let us all hope this Shankara's Advaita will also become part of the universal thinking of the world's great intellects.